So I wanted to go over a recipe that I created for some easy lactation muffins. So if you're interested, please stick around. So like probably most of you, once I had my baby, I was interested in making sure my milk supply stayed up. And so I bought those lactation cookies for like 20 bucks, which was pretty expensive. But it was nice to have those when my baby was first born because they were super easy to just grab a packet, and I ate about one a day and they were delicious. So I decided after that to go ahead and try to make my own. So I looked up a recipe for lactation cookies, bought all the ingredients that you needed, and I made my first batch, and they were delicious. My husband even liked them, but they were a little bit complicated to make. And being a first-time mom with a newborn, I knew I wasn't probably gonna keep making them because they were kind of complicated. But what I was doing was eating a muffin every day at that time, usually a muffin and fruit. And so I decided to see if I could turn that recipe into a lactation muffin recipe. So that's where this came about. And the reason it's super simple is once you have the ingredients that you needed for the lactation cookies, you only need to buy one other thing to turn it into lactation muffins. And that is these Martha White Muffins. The only thing you add to make these is milk. So they're super simple just by themselves. So I decided to try to modify this recipe to add your flaxseed, your oats, and your Brewers yeast. And then I add extra chocolate chips just to make it taste extra good because you can never go wrong with that. One note about the oats that I use, so I've got steel cut oats, and I'm gonna put them in here because I have them, but I recommend you go with something a little softer like rolled oats or something like that. I don't recommend you use the steel cut oats, but that's what I have, so that's what I'm gonna use. Okay, so to get started, it's super simple. We're just going to pour in our muffin mix. And by the way, I've got the oven preheating at 400 right now per package directions. Okay, so now all I do to turn this into a lactation muffin recipe instead of a regular muffin recipe is I add 2 tablespoons of each of my lactation type ingredients. So 2 tablespoons of the steel cut oats, 1, 2 tablespoons of the flaxseed. One of my dogs is snoring over there. 1, 2, okay. And then 2 tablespoons of the Brewers yeast. That is a really hard word to say. At least for me it is. Which I never knew until I tried to record myself saying it just now. So 1 and 2. And now the fun part, just as many chocolate chips as you want. Which for me, I like to treat myself because I mean, come on, we have a baby now. Okay, so the next thing that you're going to want to add is your milk. And the package says to do a ½ cup, but because we've added some additional dry ingredients, I've increased that to 3/4 cup, and that seems to work out well. I've done 1 cup before also, and that came out a little bit watery. They still tasted fine, but most of the chocolate chips sank to the bottom. And then another note about the chocolate chips, I add chocolate chips because I love chocolate, but so this is about 3/4 cup. But you can modify this recipe again if you prefer raisins. You could do oatmeal raisin muffins. You could add dried craisins. Anything that you can think of that you would like to add to your muffins, you could do that instead of the chocolate chips. So next, we're just going to give it a stir, and then we're going to pour it into our muffin cups. So now that the ingredients are all combined, we're just going to put our batter in our muffin mix, and if you read the directions, it says to to lightly spray medium muffin cups with no stick cooking spray or line with paper baking cups. And I don't like the idea of paper baking cups because you have to keep buying them. And so I used to have a muffin tray, but I actually got rid of that and replaced it with these silicone ones. And these are the XOXO brand. And the reason I picked these out is because they have these little tabs. That way, if for some reason I ever did go back to a muffin tray, I would be able to more easily pull it out of the tray with the tabs. And normally I'll make 12 muffins with this recipe, but I decided to just cut that down to 9 because they'll be a little fuller, and then I thought that would be prettier for the video. But if you do make 12 out of this recipe, it barely fills each of these cups all the way. So, which is nicer if you're trying to lose that extra little bit of baby weight, but what more often happens is I'll just eat 2 of them instead of 1. I also like these muffin cups because I can hold it over the bowl while I fill it too, so I don't have as much spillage to clean up, and then it doesn't cook on the tray, so it's a little bit nicer all around. One other little tip, make sure when you're filling your muffin cups that you kind of scrape the bottom because a lot of the chocolate chips do sink to the bottom of the batter. And so that way you're not left with your last muffin cup having a ton of chocolate chips, which is a delicious one, but then your other muffins don't taste quite as good. Another thing I like about these muffin tins is when you do get some on the side, it comes off super easy with just your finger after it's cooked. And I also like to just throw them in the dishwasher one at a time as I'm done with them. So now that these are ready, we're just going to pop them into the oven, and I set it for 15 minutes. That usually seems to work out fine. So yeah, I'll show them to you once they're ready. Let's take a little peek. It's almost done. Ooh. Well, the muffins are done now. I hope you try out this recipe and they're nice and easy for you so that you're motivated to keep making them. And hopefully you like this video. If you did, please like it and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks. And your brewer. And your brewer's yeast. Brewer's yeast.